Hello, my name is Mota Feinstein. One of my web locations is called Hasidic Notes Insights. Notes versus notes. So why would I select this combination? First of all, I have some insights being a Hasidic Jew. I did grow up in Reform Judaism. I was named Rami. No, I don't. I'm also a registered nurse in the United States. I am licensed for that. So therefore, it's possible that I could reconcile the conceptual presentation of separation of church and state from both backgrounds. Not church, but state. In addition, I'm nearer at the top of the ladder for either category. I'm not a rabbi. I'm not a doctor. With that in mind, I'm a lot like most of you. Having varied backgrounds, geographic hometowns, educational experiences, and points of view. So we all have what to offer each other from our varied outlooks. This presentation today I call Cotton Candy Words because the essence of some of the concepts and words are often lost once they leave the mouth in speech. The words is true with cotton candy that it loses its great taste and consistency once it enters the mouth. Nevertheless, we have fleeting moments for both of them. They look good in the beginning, sound good in the beginning, but sometimes we can't hold on to them. So the relevance could be in jeopardy with once things are verbalized. So let's try to get an example. I'll try humility. At first glance, it's a classic virtue. Once the speaker opens with that I'm presenting what I have here with all humility, and then the dictionaries will come out, and everybody look up and think, what is humility? And does it apply to the speaker and to these topics? So humility might be humbled once it parts the lips. Let's try another word or concept which has recently gained heavy publicity, and that is anti-Semitism. As mentioned above, repeated use of the concept and clarification of the conduct could lessen its future influence. Please let me explain without intending to decrease the relevance or significance. Anti-Semitism has been around for thousands of years and is well documented, but rarely has detailed descriptions, investigations, evaluations, public awareness, and political mechanics caused the prevention of its reoccurrence or a rapid cessation of its manifestations should it occur. Similarly, you can find the recent expression of never again. It had a good taste, effect at the time following the Holocaust. That has gone the way of cotton candy, despite all the military, political, and social systems surrounding the supporting of its existence and meaning. Unfortunately, never again may now be once again. Going further, who listens to all these speeches at rallies, public forums, and broadcasts where anti-Semitism is brought up and demonstrated and discussed? So I propose three types of listeners. The first are people who are interested. The second are people who are not interested. And the third are the people who could be interested. The first people who are interested already know the subject, very familiar with the definitions, and unfortunately have probably experienced it themselves. So with this group you might ask if they're frequently visiting these sites, these presentations. So what do they bring with this information? Do we have a direct line to the Prime Minister of Israel, to the President of the United States, or the Secretary General of the United States nations. So these presentation mentioned, we want to think that these people are still taking the time to do constructive priorities for their own lives and helping others in need existence. So the next group of people are the ones who really we want to hear this. And these are the people whose point of views support anti-Semitism and the horrors of it. Chances are these people will be somewhere else watching their social media, which supports their perverted outlook. So group two, it's questionable what to do with them. And for the ones that we hope will take an interest, what is the chance that they're going to even look at the site among the other websites in the world? Maybe they want to update themselves with politics, see what's going on, or maybe they have a study group which does have an interest in the subject. So we're going to decide how we're going to develop their interests, hold on to their interest, and sustain it. So first of all, the empathy and sympathy that may develop in them and which catch them, these attributes are often short-lived, and they dissipate over time. And we have the fact that if anti-Semitism is the main thrust, that these people will start to look at the issue and use the defense mechanism of denial and say, well, this is really a Jewish problem. Why do we get involved? So if it's possible that they're going to take an interest in our plight, that we have to actually hold on to that. We're justifiably including them in the picture, and honestly. So maybe the phrase, instead of anti-Semitism, is first the Jews, then you. And this is realistic. All we need to do is relate to the World Trade Center, 9/11. There was a bombing in 2013 in Boston with the Boston Marathon, where an explosive bomb killed many people, injured even more, at a sports rally, and many more. So it's not unrealistic or not dishonest to wake people up and let them know it's not just a Jewish problem, it's a worldwide problem. The trend of staying away from anti-Semitism is that this puts the focus on anti-Semites. We're looking for anti-Semites and accusing anti-Semites. In the meantime, people who are potential allies are being ignored, or not cultivated, or recognized. There's a famous saying from a shonen in the past century that said, I don't care what you say about me, just spell my name right. The meaning of this is that any publicity is good publicity for the person who's receiving it, good or evil. So pursuing continually anti-Semites and pointing out anti-Semites, they're really feeding their egos. Many people go out of their way to get attention, even if it's negative. So we must stop and think that we have to recognize, use this energy primarily to recognize our allies and develop our allies. And do you think these people exist? Do we have allies on the web? Well, it's not hard to look. How about what I call the 3Ds? D for the first name of the President of the United States. D for the first name of a famous English reporter, journalist, who has gone out of his way to research the matters of what's happening in Gaza, and has been doing this for years. Another D is a famous psychologist from Texas, a doctor. So these people are in the forefront, in the media, recognized and respected, and there are many more. So yes, these people exist, and we must recognize them and cultivate them. Finally, all right, to that. Continue with 4. CBC number 4 here or something. Yeah. 3, 4. If we don't accept this point of view, then we'll have the problem of the knee-jerk reaction of anti-Semite to anybody seems to disagree with us. And everybody says you have to work in your own backyard. And there may be instances where it will appear that we need to work in our own backyard. So our allies, who are actually concerned with our image, may come to think the things that they're seeing may need correction, right or wrong. I'm not judging that. But nevertheless, for them to bring it out, they should not be branded with a blanket statement of anti-Semites. Otherwise, we're going to lose them because they're going to recede into the cave of political correctness and avoid the Jewish situation altogether. That's the problem which could develop from the use of anti-Semites is the fact that we are attributing to mankind, to people, men, the ability to control the outcome of the world. Now, that's exclusive. Now, even the most fundamental philosophies reject that. That everybody knows that there are many powerful nations, empires, political structures that seem to have dominated the world and they will be totally in charge forever, and now they don't exist or minimally exist. There's a poem called Ozymandias, which was written by a poet named Shelley in the mid 1700s, and it talks about a king just like that, who erected a statue of his greatness, and 100 years later that statue is just dust and stones. On top of it, a well-known phrase which Corbin Burns said, "The best laid plans for mice and men often go astray," feeling that man does not have absolute power for everything in the world and at all times. And finally, the rabbi named Rabbi Shlomo Zalman of Ladi, in the very late 1700s, created a book called the Tanya, which is a key book in Hasidic philosophy. And in the 4th book of that Tanya, in the 25th chapter, it goes into detail how if man reacts in anger to things that occur to him that's called damage or pain, damage physical, financial, embarrassment, whatever it is. Now remember, if things like this happen, a person can protect himself. Not only that, they can take the person to court. And they have the option to actually walk up to a person and discuss the matter, make sure there's not a misunderstanding. But anger indicates that that other person is solely responsible for what was done. And even though he did choose to do it, and what the perpetrator, there's a deeper concept, is that God is everywhere, in everything. There's no place devoid of God. And not only that, divine providence, you've heard of it, everything is in the hand of heaven. So whatever occurs, you have to look back and say, where does God fit in this picture, and how do I approach this matter? So what is in the hands of man? In the hands of man is dealing properly with the things with which he is confronted. And how is that done? Is to recognize God, his ways, and how he wants to conduct us to conduct ourselves in dealing in his world. And this we learn to the wisdom of the Torah. Another reason for the necessity of accepting and developing the Noahide doctrine is that it's clear that in the media, and if you speak to Orthodox rabbis, the many people in the world now are coming back to or searching for God to begin with, even from countries that were atheists, that had, the religion was banned. And now they have to recognize through the research that we must follow and understand the Torah of the Jews. Now, they found that they were not getting this information from their childhood religions. A lot of information has come out in the media, they're doing their own research. So we as Jews do not promote a pathway, a viable pathway for these people, then they return. God forbid that some religions are contrary to the world's functioning altogether. But they're very well presented. And all the facts are presented at first. Not only that, don't think that a person leaves one religion who's going to be an atheist, which could be worse. So we as Jews have to be alert and prepared to guide and be a light into the world and give the people the education that they're looking for. I can talk about prevention. Nowadays in medicine, and it's been recognized for a long time that public health prevention is a key aspect of healthcare. To the fact that insurance companies are now sending doctors to the homes to evaluate people, their clients, and make sure they don't become patients, to either change healthy lifestyles, to avoid harmful substances, and to catch impending disease entities before they can manifest into something that's going to require hospitalization and intensive therapy, expensive therapy. So all around, there is a trend toward prevention. And in industry as well, preventative maintenance. So waiting for a problem to happen is not the ultimate way. It's preventing the problem from happening. So what are we doing to prevent anti-Semitism from happening? So right now we're building big armies. We're developing political infrastructure and alliances, which are not always long-lasting. Some are very fragile. And all types of activities of awareness. But is this really getting at the heart of prevention to get to the root of the evil that we are afflicted with? So speaking of prevention, maybe we should recognize the very successful tactic of our enemies that has skillfully focused on the university campus. In that environment, there are young adults who are intelligent, capable of achieving, full of energy, but highly vulnerable to being influenced by the shrewdest, financially subsidized, and morally compromised educational institutions. And remember, an institution is not just a bunch of buildings. There are people in there running it and teaching it. So these students are no longer living with their parents. Many are not married, so they don't have the influence of marriage, spouses, children, mortgages, occupations. So their mind is free to wander wherever they want, and therefore they can become programmed to the point where not only murder, but brilliant, horrible acts are accepted as a means of legitimate protest. So now public education has now become analysis of reviews, with people, ironically. So what do? We have misdemeanors and felony prosecutions for acts of anti-Semitism. That seems like darts coming up against a tank. By the way, there are not enough courts and judges, district attorneys, the police. Prosecution and punishment deter and suppress, but they do not nullify or positively reorient the future anti-Semites of the world. This is a very strong Hasidic concept that not only do you suppress evil, blot out, block evil, but you have to convert evil, nullify it, and convert it into a positive pursuit. Just like you could have a wild horse, right? So a wild horse is dangerous, so you stay away from it. But if you can tame a wild horse, and the horse and rider together can accomplish many amazing things. So frankly, education has to be rewritten from kindergarten to 12 and beyond. I remember in the early 2000s, after 9/11, that posts were made from quoting terrorist leaders that they're going to raise a new generation. So that's early 2000s to now, over 20 years. So now we have a new generation which they raised their way. And the outcomes are observable globally. No one's safe. Look at Europe and note the decades of senseless murder in our public schools, in clubs, in churches, and shopping centers. We're no longer instilling values of what is right and wrong, morals, ethics, values. It's usually at the forefront of these attacks in time because they're the ones with the strongest group dynamics to recognize and deal with hate. Plenty of experience and plenty of training from your Torah background, the ones who remember it. And not only that, we have the tools to promote justice, peace, and truth. Justice, peace, and truth is a Talmudic concept. You can find it in a book called Ethics of the Father, Pirkei Avos, first chapter of the 18th verse, that these are goals for mankind. So it's time to discover our historic Jewish assets and demonstrate that the voice of Yaakov, or Jacob, one of our primary ancestors, will able to overcome the hand of Esau, one of our primary nemesis. And for the Amalekites that are listening, we might be the most influential group to bring us back to God's Torah and mitzvahs. Because the example you set, coming from distant backgrounds, doing your own research, and rejecting past beliefs and coming towards the Torah, is hard to not notice. And we must bring you to the foreground and compliment you on your strengths. Hope to speak to you more in the future. Thank you.